Well, hello there, community. I am Jason Rahm with the Dev Central team here at F5, and Happy New Year. We are in 2026, and this is the first stream we've done in a while, so I'm glad to be here. Hope you're glad to be here. We got a good show for you. One of our guests wasn't able to make it, so I'll catch up with his segment later, and we'll get that out to the community. But we still have two amazing guests talking about what's in our toolbox today. Before we get to that, I want to invite you to App World 2026, March 10th through 12th in Las Vegas at the Fontainebleau. The Dev Central team will be there. Lots of solution architects and solution engineers bringing an amazing lab experience. We'll have great keynotes and breakout sessions, party time. It's going to be a good event, and I'm excited about getting there. And so hopefully I will see you there. We're even going to do a little iRules contest while we're on site. And so bring your TCL experience and, just a good attitude, and we'll have a fun time that night, and we'll learn a lot together. And so let's see, do we have anything else I wanted to promote today? Nope, that's it. So we're going to go ahead and get into the show, and I'll bring on my first guest.
Hello, everyone. Yes. Hi. Good. How are you?
I am excellent, and I'm excited about what you have to share for us, or share with us, rather. And so, just to introduce, you're working on a tool called Unovis, right?
Yes, Unovis. Let's give you a little bit of introduction. I'm Chen Liu, and I work here at F5 as part of the UI foundational team. So what that does is we build components and we support our XC distributed cloud framework, or the platform, right? And then we do a lot of UI component table or anything like that. But part of that, and also part of my job, is to maintain and develop this open source library called Unovis, which powers all the charts that you see on our distributed cloud. And I also think we support some of the UI in our big IP team as well. So and then today I want to just introduce everyone to this tool so that you can, it's a free open source framework, so everybody's free to use it if you want to.
Awesome. Yeah. So we can plug this into our own projects and you're good to go, right? And so
yes.
if you are a distributed cloud customer, you've seen some of the charting that's out there, and it's like, wow, that's kind of snappy looking. You can fold that into your own projects. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and dive in.
All right, awesome. So this is our website, and I want to say a little bit like what makes us a little bit different than the other frameworks is we actually support a bunch of different JavaScript frameworks. We support React, Angular, Svelte, and all the other kind of stuff. I mean, it all compiled down to JavaScript, obviously, but this makes, it's easier for the user. Like, for example, our XC console uses Angular, right? So we use Unovis, and then I think our big IP, some of the teams uses React as well. So they are also able to utilize Unovis. And this is our website. Feel free to go in there if you're interested. We have, a pretty decent documentation, which will just tell you, what type of charts or stuff that we support, maps, like your regular charts. And we also have a decent, gallery examples, which you can go in and check them out. We recently, added this tree map, which was, I believe, one of our latest component. Releases or our release are documented here as well if you want to look at what's new and what's there that's available. And since we're an open source framework, it is very important that we have this contribution section. So if you want to contribute to the library, please feel free to do so, and then read this guideline. It will have pretty detailed steps about how we construct things, what are the rules, and then how you are able to submit your pull request.
All right, so that's your marching orders, community. If you see something you want to add, enhance in the library, get at it.
Yes, please. We would love that. As a matter of fact, the reason we support so many different frameworks, I think 2 of them were actually contributed by community members. So we didn't even start with solid or view. And then I think it was purely from the community, which was awesome.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and then on top of that, we have a Discord channel. So if you don't want to ask questions or you want quicker feedback, or like answers, you can reach out to us on Discord as well. And we also have our GitHub, which where obviously everything is hosted on GitHub. And then you can submit your pull requests here. We have issues lists. So if you find a bug or anything like that, feel free to submit there, and I check these things daily pretty much. So hopefully we'll get a quick reply to you. Yeah, and I think what we'll do today is we'll do a little bit of live coding if everybody's up for it. Just
Absolutely.
to demonstrate how the library works, and then while we're doing these things, we can talk about the construction, the architecture, things like that, or any questions, feel free to throw at me, Jason.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, so one thing I should really mention is one of the nice thing about this is you can go here and we'll have different examples, right? And then we support all these different frameworks. So like obviously the syntax is a little bit different. So you can see all the codes are here, and if you want to play with it live, you can just open this, which we call StackBlitz. This is a pretty nice tool, like a live coding tool that if you don't want to go through the downloading, the install, and all that stuff, you just say, I want to play with the library a little bit. This is like very much interactive, and it gives you instant feedback, so it's really nice. So I figured we'll just start from here. Which I think Jason very kindly provided us with a little bit of data set, and which is I believe from the paper here, which is about CPU and GPU characteristics over time. So we'll just use this data set as our starting point, and then we'll do a little bit line chart and then tooltips and things like that. Your basic whatever, when you're making a most fundamental data visualization, what are the fundamental elements you need? So, okay, so let's go through this. I have all the data that's already imported here. It's literally just the original, very much raw data from here that's being constructed. And I've also pre-written this function, which literally is just saying combine. So each data set, as you can see, has year and some sort of data, right? It has the name of the, I don't know, CPU or GPU, and then your gigaflops, essentially your data that we're plotting. So what I did here with this function is literally just merging them, right? I pull all the data for each year. And then I'm saying, okay, all these data are going to be your different Y dimensions, since we want to make a line chart over time. That's what we're plotting.
Gotcha.
This is just the very basic setup. And then you want to go here, which we have a little starting point here, right? Let's get rid of this. So this is a modular data visualization library. What that means is, think of some library might have a different approach. Let's say I have a line chart. My line chart is in charge, when I say render this line chart, it's in charge of my axis, my tooltip. So when I include this line chart, everything is included, right? And you can turn it on or off as you wish. This works a little bit differently. Since it's modular, you want to add on all these things. So when I'm saying I want to add in a line chart, all I'm plotting is the line. You don't have any axis, you don't have tooltips, you don't have your legend. So if you want to add them, you need to add them on top of these things. So it's like each little component is a building block. And you
can be as light or as heavy as you want with all the different components.
Exactly. I think that's what obviously pros and cons for everything, right? But the way we decided to do this is make it lighter and more versatile. So you can combine a lot of different things, which I will show, very soon. So because we're this way, when you say, I want to plot a line chart, which contains an X and Y axis, essentially, you will want to import this thing called this XY container, which essentially just tell the framework, tell the chart or the, whatever the components like, oh, what I'm about to plot is an X and Y related. Differ from, let's say, if you want to have a donut chart, right? Or any sort of map. That doesn't have an X and Y scale. So what you want to import in that case would be a single container, but that's for later. So then once you have this, the nice thing about an XY container is I will handle all the data for you. So anything I include within this XY container can share the same data set. So you don't have to import it multiple times. I mean, obviously you can if you wanted to. If you say, oh, I don't want my X to be following this rule, you can override it. There's a way to do that. But otherwise, this is actually nice because you don't have to import your data multiple times. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, here's what you're going to plot. I think it's called, let me see, generate data, right? I think it's called generate, yes. And this is a function. So this is essentially this function that I wrote, right? And I'm using it here so I get all the data. And when you have a chart, it's very important to tell what is your scale. In this specific case, since we're plotting linear data, we want to say, here, let me see, which I predefine linear data, right? So just scale linear. I should say the whole universe is built on top of D3, which is a very super popular data visualization library. So this is essentially their syntax. When it's linear data, you say scale linear. When it's ordinal data, for example, you want to plot bar charts or different categories. When the data is ordinal, you say scale ordinal. So that's the difference, right? So same as my Y scale, since we want to do the gigaflops, I think it's just how you call it. I hope I'm not I'm getting it right. Okay, so both scales, my X and Y, are linear data. So now getting to the point, which is when you want to plot, we want to plot a line chart, right? So we're going to say, I want a this line. This is going to be my line chart. And for each of the line chart, you need to tell it how to plot it. Remember how we have this data set and everything here, the year, which is going to be my X scale, is going to be the year. The key is called year. And then the other ones are Y and Y1 to Y4.
Gotcha.
Here, what I want to see is, I want to say D.X, I believe. And then for my Y scale, I think it's going to be the accessor. So what's this? This is essentially saying, oh, mapping all your data from Y1 to Y4, right? This is what we had, and then this represents each data. And with that, you just have your most basic line chart right here.
Right, and so right now, because we just see the data plotted, it looks like art. It's not really data yet. It's art.
I like that.
And so,
yes.
So we need to add that, the other modules to, your keys.
Exactly, which we call accesses, right? And then there's a required field. I need to tell you what is the type of my X. For example, this is going to be my X scale.
Okay.
So I add that, right? And then the same thing, type Y, it's going to plot my Y for me.
Okay.
And it's auto scale because of the data.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, oh, it knows that I'm starting from a certain point to a certain point. It's not just randomized because the data handles that as well. It's pulling from the data set and giving you these answers. So like you can even do, number of ticks. You say, okay, maybe I want a little more than, I don't know, sometimes it does. See, now it's going to give you that. And another nice thing about this is like, okay, I want to be more specific. What is this 5,000? What is this 10,000, right? I want to be giving it maybe a little unit or whatever in this case. What you can do, I think you can say, let's see, this is your original D value, and then I think it's gigaflops in our case. So now it's going to add that for you. So now you see your scale have a little unit there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so next. As I said, we're modular based, right? You're like, okay, I think this is not clear enough because it's a continuous data. I'm not sure exactly where is my data point on the line. So what you want to do is, you can do, okay, I want to add another chart on top of it that overlaps with my data, shares the same thing, but it's a scatter plot. So it's going to tell me exactly where my data point is. You see that? Scatter plot simply just add these dots for you on your chart.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we see a very interesting thing, because without this, I didn't even notice that we're missing a data point here, because our data is discontinuous, right? I'm missing a data point here. So if I'm only plotting line, you won't be able to see this dot, because I can only plot a line between two dots.
Gotcha.
So when you're missing data, you don't know that's there. So this is actually a nice thing that to have or to think of when you're plotting a chart. But our line chart does have this function, which I think is called fallback value, I believe, which what it does is, I think when you have discontinued data, let's say right now I said, oh, fallback value is 0. It's when you don't have that data, we're gonna insert a data point for you. So
Gotcha.
every single thing on your line has a data point. But
Okay.
you know, some people doesn't want that. They want their lines to be discontinued or chopped off, or you know, you can do that. But we also have another thing called interpolate missing data, which if I turn this on, it's gonna plot dotted line for you if
Okay.
there's the data at the end.
Right.
So now
Which,
you can
you know,
see,
I guess is
oh,
helpful for trends, but not
yes,
necessarily helpful for understanding the, you know, the accuracy of your data. Because if you have missing
exactly.
data, yeah.
Yes, yes. So if you, yes, my personal goal is, you know, you shouldn't really insert anything that's not there, because that's incorrect. But yes, there are needs sometimes if people just want to see the trend. They're like, I don't care if there's a data point missing. That's an excellent point, Jason. So yeah, so with that, right, you have your most basic line chart. And then let's see, now let's add the legend, right? Because you want to know what you're plotting or what you're representing. So I think we have a couple of different legends. One of them, I think is called bullet legend. And with that, you want to give it an item. I think I have it right down. Yeah, okay, so this is what I have. I have a name and I have a color, just so that it matches whatever we're plotting here. So all you need to do is you just say items and you put them in. And now you have these things that's being displayed on top. And with that, you say, okay, I wanted to add a little bit of, you know, tooltip, right? Interactivity and things like that. You need to write it down. So let's say tooltip. Actually, I don't remember. I don't remember this on top of my head. Let's see. Tooltip.
Which, looking that up, you can highlight the excellent documentation you have.
Yes, yes. Okay, triggers. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this. And then we're gonna pay. Oh, I already have it here. Great. So this is scattered triggers. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna say triggers and triggers. Tooltip. I'm gonna close it. I think this should be okay. Yeah. So now you have. This is really simple, right? I'm not. You can define whatever you want, right? Because this is just plain HTML. And you can say, okay, so I have a 2010 and my data, here's my data. So this is very nice when you just have, let's say, scatter plot without your multi-line, where if you have a map, you have a donut chart, you can hover a segment, right? And it's gonna highlight what's the tooltip or what's the data on there. But with things like area chart, maybe stacked bar or multi-line in this case, what you probably want to do is when you hover a certain point, it highlights all the data that's on that position, right? Which in this case, there were 4 different data sets. So right now, I'm only able to hover them individually, and then they will give me the data. So what you want to do is we have this thing which is called crosshair. Let's see if this, okay, great. So now you see when I hover them, essentially what crosshair does is a vertical line that will highlight all your data points on that little dot, which the color right now is not correct. So if you want to have both, you need to use crosshair combined with tooltip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable this because I don't want to show 2 tooltips. And I think it's called template. I think tooltip template, which I predefined here. This is going to give us this nice format of a div with all the information that's currently highlighted. Yeah,
Can you
so
write that
like,
function to also do summary? So like if if you had effectively like an Excel column where you wanted to add all the data points?
You can, but you have to do it manually. Like you will have to do, like this. It's not going to be smart enough to do it for
no, but I mean,
you.
if you built that
But
in there for it
you
to
can't
display.
summary.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
okay.
now it's going to give me the year, but then you need to essentially sum this data.
Yeah.
And it will give you the little summary here. Yes, absolutely. And let's see. I think if you pass, I believe there's a color. And if I pass our
Yeah,
color
which with this
array,
data, it doesn't make sense to summarize it, but
Yeah,
in
yeah.
some cases you might have data you want to summarize, across the fold.
For sure. And then you can add that. And you can even add, we recently added another nice feature, I think, which is you can add hyperlinks. So since this is HTML, right, you can add a link and then you can hover over and you can say, oh, I want to click on that or anything. You can do very basic interactivity as well with this. So now the color is correct. And I think there's another thing that also is nice to have is sometimes people want to add some sort of highlight on your chart. Like for example, oh, this is an outlier on my data set and I want to highlight it. And then you can add, which we have this thing called annotation. And also, let's see, I think it's called items. Yes, do I have annotation here? Yeah, this guy. So let's try this. Once I add this in, it's gonna point to specific points on the chart, and you'll say, all these. I don't know why this is undefined, but new annotation. Let's see, what did I do with this guy? This is essentially a big blob of HTML. If you can see, like I have literally the HTML, the CSS syntax, right? Line bottom or center, and then this is gonna pass me the data. This radius is this guy right here, the highlight. And you can also say, oh, I don't want this to be here. I want it to be, this is the position of your highlights area. So if you want to say, oh, I want to change it to a certain part of the chart or whatever, you can do that as well. Oh, because this is a random number, I see. That's why it's not showing up. So if I just pass this in, it should give me the data. Yeah. Oh, but I want a Y, I think. Oh, whatever. So yeah, and then that's pretty much, I think, my demo. That's all I have here. A little line chart with all the data set.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. And of course, like you said earlier, there's way more than just line charts that are out there.
Yes. If you go into the gallery, line chart is probably like one of our most basic. We have area chart with baseline, and then we have, this is the scatter plot we demoed. And we have all kinds of different maps and your flow charts, things like this, custom nodes, tree map.
I thought I saw Sankey is out there too. You got to.
Oh yes, there is Sankey here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's great. One of the things that maybe and maybe this will be a PR for me is, I think when I first started to look at it, I wanted to see if I could build this into an iRule, and there didn't look like there was a hosted version of this anywhere that I could just reference in an HTML page.
Oh yeah, I don't think so. I don't think right now. Maybe we can, talk about it.
So I need to make that happen so I can build it in an iRule. So
all right.
Yeah, but anyway, well, I'm impressed with the Unovis, and of course, looking at all the iCandy and distributed cloud is awesome. But that we can use it in open source, world is awesome too. So thank you for maintaining this and building it and working on it, and for coming to share that with us. And,
of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you have a great day and a great week, since it's Monday. And hey, it's a Monday, and you did a live demo and it worked. So, that's a great start to the week, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good deal. Well, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you. All right.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. And so now, we got to do that. We didn't get to do Ben's demo today, but I am going to bring on Jerry Lees, who is going to share. I always like to talk about home labs. I'm in the middle of revamping my home lab. In fact, I could tell a story real quick before I bring on Jerry. We all deal with imposter syndrome. And I've been on the software side and the virtual side for so long that I don't really mess with hardware that much anymore. And I bought a couple Ubiquity switches and a firewall. So I'm like redoing my home network, and I locked myself out of my switches like 3 times, and I didn't get some things done in the firewall right, and so it's like I'm running back and forth to my firewall, and the first switch is like in my son's bedroom, and like he's sleeping. I'm like, oh, do I go in there and wake him up and all that? So it's like the course of figuring all that out and getting just the lab networking part done so I can start building out all the systems again. It took me like 3 days, and at the end of that, I'm like, man, I really suck at network engineering, and I was a network engineer for so long. And so anyway, I love to talk about home lab stuff because I've got about, you see all that crap in my background, boxes and stuff. I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm in the process of getting added to the lab. And so I'm excited to talk to Jerry. So let me go ahead and bring him on. Jerry Lees.
Hey.
Notice I added the S, right? So I'm good, right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, definitely.
Jerry, you work in professional services with F5, right?
I did work in professional services for about 9.5 years, and I'm currently a solutions engineer.
Oh, you moved to the dark side.
Yeah,
wow.
Moved to the dark side. I've got to come to the dark side. We've got cookies in the background. I don't know if anyone can see it, but
that's awesome. And we'll point out your Amigas in the background.
The Amigas in the background, yeah.
That's right. For those friends of the show, with Aaron. Aaron did our quarterly security notifications for a long time. He moved on to ARM about a year ago, but we were always talking about his Amigas in the background. So we got another Amiga fan.
Sure, for sure. Yeah.
All right, so Jerry, we're going to talk about home labs, and the reason I wanted to talk to you about that is that you built some tools. You vibe coded, and we've talked about vibe coding on the side, but we're going to talk about some of that today. So do you want to just jump in?
Yeah, for sure. And that was an excellent segue there with your journey with the home lab, because that's kind of what my day yesterday was as well. And I wasn't going to start off with this, but this is a portion of my home lab right now.
Let me interrupt you too. Jerry's home lab is way more impressive than my home lab. My home lab's just a couple little things on the side.
Jerry's why I wasn't going to do it, but you don't. This is over years, right? And the key is that you don't have to start with something like this, right? I upgraded a PC, and my old PC was, was kind of getting slow, but it still had some value. And I used that to study Windows and Windows NT years ago, right?
3.5 or 4.0? Where'd you start?
Well before F5. It's so I'm going to date myself, but the new thing after a few years of me being in it was Windows NT 4.0.
4.0, okay, yeah. 3.5 was where I started. So
yeah. So I saw Windows NT 3.1.1, and that was interesting, but yeah. So you don't have to start here. This is a progression. This is trade up. I've got a Kubernetes cluster here at the top, and this one on the bottom, this Dell Optiplex, is what I started with my Kubernetes cluster. I had many of them. And then I found these mini PCs that I don't know. The ones I bought were HP minis, the G3 minis.
Yeah.
They were about $75. Throw some memory in it. There's some disk in there, and built a Kubernetes cluster, some nodes out of that. I've now pretty much entirely converted to those for my Kubernetes cluster.
So can I stop you there just for a second?
Sure.
So $75, that's less than a Raspberry Pi now.
Yeah.
I know all the rage is to get like a Raspberry Pi or a Jetson Nano and all that, but
Right.
but $75, people, and so you don't have to have a terabyte of RAM and 87 GPUs and CPUs to get started with learning little things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I started off with that and moved into that, the last probably 5 years, and built this out, 3D printed a case for the minis. And now I've got something that I can just kind of move around if I need to. And that's my entire Kubernetes cluster in a box there.
That's awesome, and that's impressive. And Matt's weighing in here. It's like he's got a server sitting on his floor testing GPUs for AI goodness right now. And,
oh yeah, the story from yesterday is a server on the floor, and I knocked it over and busted a fiber cable. So
yeah, I was noticing some fiber at the bottom of your rack there. I see some there at the top too.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll use is Facebook Marketplace and eBay. They're for different things. eBay, you're going to find things servers have kind of been stripped for the most part. You're going to have to dig a little bit more to find one with memory or CPU in it, but you can find them.
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace, the difference there is that, you kind of have to, you have to watch out for the guys that are selling a half chewed pack of gum. And no low ball offers. I know what I got.
We'll ghost you and not show up.
Right. But at the same time, you do find some deals. Probably a couple of weeks ago, the thing that I've been working on implementing is I was using these mini PCs for Proxmox, and the Proxmox, I could run 2 or 3 VMs on it. And so I was getting some good use out of those. Stuck 64 gigs of RAM in these mini PCs, and I was able to get some good use out of them with running Proxmox on the mini PCs that I'm running Kubernetes on. And the thing that I started noticing was that I was kind of just running out of room and horsepower. So I found on Facebook Marketplace someone that was selling 2 HP DL360 servers for $150.
Ooh.
And I asked him, if that was, if that was for both or for one or each, or and he said, no, it's for both. And I said, oh, okay, I'm interested in that. And it was, I was like, do they have any hard drives in them? All the standard things, right? They had 64 gigs of RAM in them. I had to buy a little bit extra memory, but DDR3 ECC memory is pretty inexpensive. I think for like $100 you can get, 128 gigs or more.
Yeah.
And so in talking with the guy, he's like, actually, I've got another thing. And he sent me a picture of this, and it was kind of a grainy picture, more grainy than this one. And I thought it was a server shelf, like a fiber shelf. And he said, it's got a problem. It doesn't keep the RAID array. And I was like, okay, that's probably just a battery. But, and I told him, I said, I'd be taking a risk on it. I'm willing to take the risk, but, I'll offer you like $30 for it. Turns out it's an HP DL380 with dual Xeons. The guy loaded it with 512 gigs of RAM. And I went out and bought some 1 terabyte drives. He also put some hard drives in each of them as well, but they were like 800, 900 meg hard drives. So I went out and bought some hard drives for this, and this is actually going to end up being my Proxmox backup server.
Okay. Wow.
So I'll have some, not offsite, so not 3-2-1 backups, but I'll at least have a backup of some of my stuff. So
can you scroll to the top of your rack real quick?
Absolutely.
Your cluster.
Yes.
Did you? So is that, what kind of enclosure is that for your cluster? Is that?
I 3D printed that.
I'm not familiar with that.
You can get that. You can download that off of makerworld.com, and that is 3D printed with my Bamboo P1S.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's a 3D printed rack. It's I've got another one here that
Yeah,
is not in
let me make
production.
you big here for a second. Give me a
Yeah,
second.
no worries.
There you
This is
go.
a mess. Ignore it. But
Well,
this
that's
is
huge. How big is your 3D printer? Good gracious.
it's a 10-inch rack, but it was printed in pieces.
Yeah.
So, but that I've got a couple of those. Put one in my RV because I've got a home lab in my RV, just because I like to play. Right.
Yeah.
I like to play.
Yeah. My 3D printer is an A1 Mini. Although I've got a bigger one in the background. You can kind of see the edge of it. But it's a Elder or Ender 3 V2 or Pro
Yeah.
V2.
Yeah.
And I can't get the first layer to bind. So I can't print on it anymore because like it just won't stick to the dang plate.
We'll talk.
Please. I would love for us to meet up and fix that
it's
problem.
a drafty room.
Yeah, well, I don't really have a whole lot of airflow here in the basement, but I haven't been able to get that thing to bind in like a year and a half. So
yeah,
so it just sits. But it's like one day I'll get that fixed. So yeah, we'll have to meet up and
for sure.
you can help me over the hump.
Yeah, for sure. So it's just a journey, right? It's just a journey. You start out small. You start out with something that is inexpensive, and the nice thing is I generally target 2 to 3 generations back if I'm going to buy something. And you use it for a year. You buy something new. You sell your old one. And that kind of funds your future purchases, right? So it's kind of a buildup. The thing that I was having a challenge with was my lab's so big that I couldn't remember where things were. Where's that LXC container in Proxmox? Where's this? So I was documenting that in a package that I had running on Kubernetes called Trillium, and it's for note taking. So I was just keeping notes, like little scratch notes in Trillium, and that worked fine, but it wasn't real scalable. And I remember in a previous position at a previous job before that, I used a media wiki to document things, and I was like, oh, okay, I can use a wiki. So I spun up a wiki in Kubernetes and started documenting there, and that worked great for a while. But it required me to actually go in and update it. And I have a saying that where network administrators are good network administrators and server administrators are generally lazy. And I say that in kind of a positive tone, not a negative connotation, right? We don't want to do things that are repetitive over and over. So automation's key to that. And so I was like, I could probably automate something. And so that started down the path of, I'd done this before for another company where I had a script that ran every night. It went out and scanned with WMI all the Windows servers and created an HTML page that saved in a certain location. And then people could look at that HTML page and see what the state of that server was at the last job run. And it had things like, how much RAM, how much RAM was in each DIMM, all of those things, what CPU was in it, what was the name, what was the IP address, kind of sysadmin type information. And I was like, I feel like I can do that. And then along comes AI, and I wanted to play with that. And so I saw you talking about Claude AI. And I thought, I'll give this a shot. And so I gave it a shot and looked at it. And, honestly, at first it felt like I was a little bit cheating by vibe coding. And the thing was that years ago, my wife and I built a house. It was our first house. We built it. We just happened to get in at the ground floor where they were being built. So we say we built a house, but I didn't nail any nails. cut any boards. And that's kind of with vibe coding, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to be successful, I don't think. Like I couldn't say to Claude, generate me an operating system that competes with Windows and Linux, right?
Right.
It's just not powerful enough at this point to do that. You've got to have some knowledge about the thing that you're doing. And once you have some knowledge about the thing that you're doing, then you can guide it, right? You guide it along. And I've been really impressed with some things that it does. So for example, I'll use it to solve problems. Like I've got a repository called Big Scan, and that scans a big IP, generates UCSs for all the big IPs, and downloads QK views for it, so that you can create backups of your organization, your infrastructure, and it does that by just connecting to the big IP and doing that. So this actually scans the network and from a configuration file, and will, download all the UCSs and QK views from all of your devices. So if you ever need to do that, you can use that tool. I started working on a tool that is a replacement for a tool that I did when I was a consultant at F5, and it's called Big Health, and it actually will use the API that iHealth has, and it will download QK views that you've uploaded, tear them apart, rip into them. Eventually, it will be able to look at and tell you, you have a TCP timeout that's 4 billion seconds. That's 113 years. So that's the case where you really must want that TCP session to outlive you.
Yeah. Well, and that's just a shout out to Chen's presentation. That would be like that outlier data, right?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, whoa, what's going on with that?
Yeah, that was
started it with Unovus, all that
I
stuff.
want to dig into that and implement that somewhere here, but that's a story for another day. So then I was like, okay, well, my home lab, and I've got a repository that's got all the things that are in my home lab, custom containers. There's some Terraform there, I think, as well as all my manifests for Kubernetes are in there. So each of these things that I have in my home lab that are in Kubernetes, I put the manifests up there. It's obfuscated, so you have to go through, and there's a sed command in here that will let you change it to be yours. Like I don't share my IP address ranges that I use. A.B.C.D are what I use in the thing. So if you use a sed command to go through that and change the passwords, and you'll be able to be successful in deploying into a Kubernetes environment the things that I've done. Also, I have some custom containers. So the Docker, anything that I've created where I've created a custom container on my own. Maybe it was, needing to modify it a little bit. And so I use that in the Docker file as the base and make the modifications I need, and then run down the road, right? And
you still use Nagios? It's like I'm seeing some old school stuff here.
Yeah. So you're seeing some of the journey there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because also if you're in the upper thing here, I've got some cacti as well. So I don't use Nagios. I kind of played with it a little bit, but I didn't end up implementing it quite a lot. So
just Jason trivia, cacti article on Dev Central was my very first article, and it was when I was a customer.
Well, there you go.
So,
there you go. Yeah. So I started down the road with the home lab repository, just kind of documenting, right? This was my backup plan, right? All my Kubernetes manifests are there. All my custom Docker files are there. There's some Ansible in here. There's I did some stuff for last year's App World where I used declarative onboarding and AS3 to build a big IP in Proxmox, big IP HA pair. And these are this is where I stuck that information, right? So there's declarative onboarding here. There's AS3 here. It's very light AS3, but it is an AS3 declaration. And if you follow this section, the Big IP Classic section, you can build a Big IP in Proxmox, license it, build the base configuration with declarative onboarding, and then lay down a real configuration, a shared configuration with AS3. And so I kind of played with that. And the other thing that I did was I started to realize that, hey, I could write a script that documents, like I did in the past, my lab. So I started with the concept of just a CSV, right? So this server's CSV. And I'll make a list with all my servers in it, and I'll have to update that list, but that'll be the list. That'll be the list that rules them all, so to speak, right? And so that worked well, but I've got multiple networks in my home lab. So I've got a management network, I've got a server network, I've got a quote DMZ network, and other VLANs as well. And so I was like, I should just scan it. So I asked Claude, I was like, hey, we've got this and it's working great. Is there any way that if I gave you a set of network ranges in CIDR format that you could just scan this? And it's like, yeah, let's do it. And so we went through and now it scans the networks. So it will start at the first IP in a network range, and it will go through and it will scan for IPs that are available, try and fingerprint what they are. It can fingerprint Linux, it can fingerprint Windows, there's Synology on my network, there's Asset Store on my network, and there's some Terra stations on my network. And it can figure out what those are and document the pieces of information that are important for those individual things on the network. And so that worked out well. It was able to scan them. And I was creating markdown files instead of HTML files like I had done in the past. And it would create the markdown files, and I was able to view them and look at them. And I was like, I like the idea of the wiki. And what if I could just update this information into the wiki? So I asked Claude, is there an API for MediaWiki? He said, yes, there is. And so I said, let's do that. And so I was working two paths, the Markdown and the MediaWiki, and it was updating both. But there were differences between what was in the Markdown and what was in the MediaWiki because it was different code sets. And I just kind of said, what if I created a Jinja template? So I had Claude, I presented the idea to Claude. Claude always thinks every idea that you think is a good idea. It said, that's a great idea. And so it now creates a Jinja template from the scanned information, because it's saving the scanned information in CSV files that contain the information that was found for each host. It uses that to create, with the Jinja template, the Markdown and the MediaWiki. So the MediaWiki and the Markdown information are all relatively the same, with any limitations between the two technologies, right?
Yeah.
But the information that's in both of them are the same. So it generates that, it updates the MediaWiki automatically, set up a cron job, and every morning my MediaWiki is up to date with the latest, greatest on there. And the nice thing is you can get off on these tangents, right? Where you can say, okay, that's working. But what if we, now that we've got things like RAM and hard drive space on the servers, what if we listed services? So I said, hey, list out any services that are on there. And so it listed out the services, and it was first a blob of text. And I said, this is a lot of repetition. So let's put that into a services CSV. And you'll see that in there as well. And so basically it generated this services CSV as I was scanning my network that got larger and larger, but then eventually stopped growing because it had everything that I knew. Now it can identify services and tell you if they're running, kind of some background. The services CSV's got some background that I told Claude, here's the services CSV that you found. Go out and find some information to put into the services CSV for notes and descriptions about these services, and use that services official project page to do it. And it sucked it in, created a description in each of the fields for many of the services, and basically says, if it's auto-generated or not, and what it does, and then as well as where the documentation URL is. So you can use this to scan your network, and if you find a service that you don't know about, you can look in your services CSV file and go to that page for documentation to see what that is, if the description alone isn't enough.
Well, the wheels are starting to turn for me too, because we're starting to look at different ways to introduce agentic and all that. It's like, as you have these things looking, whoa, new service, what is that service? And then tie that into your own like house chat or text or whatever.
Right.
It's like, hey, there's a new service here. It's not in your inventory. You might want to check that out. And
right. Yeah, and that was all driven by the security guy in me, right? It's like, hey, I don't know what this is. Why is that running on my system?
Yep.
And so that was, that was helpful. And the key is that the project got really big, really fast. And Claude's not the best in the world at writing tight code. But it got so big that I was filling up the context so quickly that before I did what I'm about to talk about, it was one of those things that I would upload the code and the context would be full. And that's when the AI models start to hallucinate. They start to go in circles. And so I just asked it, I said, hey, how can we split this up? First thing that it did was it split up the code into modules. And so there's Python modules now in the repository that does specific things. So the main Python calls the Python modules, and that made it better because I didn't have to upload the whole code base. I could upload just the pieces I was working on. Then another thing that I did later on was I had a text file that was for directives, and basically I upload that with the beginning of the conversation with Claude, and I give it some ground rules, don't give me, when creating artifacts, give me the name and the full path under the project. It was kind of an annoyance for me that it was like not giving me what it was. And I wanted it to be very specific if I was just going to follow what it was doing blindly, which is dangerous, by the way. Don't do that. But I had some germane knowledge of what I was doing, so I could follow it. I was like, look at it and go, yeah, that's not going to break anything, I don't think. And that helped quite a ton because then it was giving me the responses more reliably. There was a lot of time where I was going back and saying, no, I mean this. No, I mean this. No, I mean this. And that helped quite a bit. And then the other thing that I did was I came up with an initial prompt that I give it that says, here's kind of the information. And I had Claude summarize the repository and what all of the Python modules did and what the major inputs and outputs of the modules were. And I upload that to Claude at the start of a conversation. So Claude's got the bulk of the knowledge that's necessary to ask questions, because, hey, there's this function in this file. That's the one that we need to work with. Can you upload that file? And it will ask me, upload config.python. And so I upload config.python, it makes some modifications, and I'm only dealing with small pieces of the puzzle that way.
Yeah, I find that Claude has to be reined in quite a bit.
Like, yeah, you have to
work. Hey, I would like you to walk an inch. Okay, 6 miles later, and then.
But sometimes the stuff that it does is you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, but I want to.
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah. Hey, just real quick housekeeping. We got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Till the top of the hour. I shared links to the repo. Matt Mavis was like, share that repo about the big IP Proxmox stuff. So we got about 2 minutes to wrap up.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to, yeah.
I think the only thing left would be the last thing I most recently did was I told Cacti, I said, hey, we've got all this information. I need to put it in Cacti. And can you just create me a Cacti config that I can import? And it's like, yeah, sure we can. And so basically everything that's in every one of these graphs that I have here in my Cacti was created. The import file that I imported into Cacti was created in the proper format from the information I already had for the lab documenter. And that imported and it created these graphs from that.
Nice. So I haven't looked at Cacti in a long time. Is Cacti still Perl on the back end?
I think so. I don't know for certain.
Yeah, I don't remember Perl at all, so that'll be helpful if I need to deploy Cacti again.
Right. And that's the thing. That's the nice thing about AI. I can read Perl. I'm not great at writing it.
Yeah.
But it's really accelerated the development of stuff because I don't have to spend a lot of time. So thank you for your time. Thank everyone. I'm glad. Hopefully everyone got some good information out of the deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that home lab repo, he's got a lot of other cool repos out there if you want to check out his GitHub space. But the home lab is there. So Jerry, thank you for that. And then of course, Jen with Unovis is out there as well. And so with that, Jerry, thank you so much. And I'm going to wrap up the show and get out of here. I appreciate you coming on to share your home lab. And I'll be using some of those tools for sure as I build out mine. So appreciate it. And yeah, so first stream of the year for me. I look forward to doing more of these throughout the year as we have compelling stuff to bring to the community. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to build Unovis or at least reference Unovis in an iRule. Would love to get that working. Maybe that's going to be my contest entry at App World. Not that I get to participate, but maybe I'll work on mine on the side while everybody else is working on theirs. So that'll be fun. But again, App World 2026, March 10th through 12th in Las Vegas. If you have not registered, do so. We look forward to seeing you out there. And with that, we will close out. Have a great week, and we'll see you again on the next one.